The hum of polite conversation filled the elegant dining room. Glasses clinked under the warm glow of chandeliers. At one corner table, a family of three sat still, their evening already tense from subtle looks and unspoken words. Then came the moment no one could have imagined. As the father adjusted his napkin, a tall waiter strode up, tipped a pitcher forward, and sent a stream of icy water cascading down the man's head and shoulders. Gasps erupted. Silverware froze midair. The boy's eyes went wide. The humiliation was instant and complete. What no one knew yet was that the man being drenched wasn't just a customer. He was the owner of the very restaurant. It had been meant to be a simple evening out, a quiet celebration of the couple's wedding anniversary. The father, Marcus Hayes, had spent years building his business empire, but had always kept a low profile. To mark the special day, he booked a private table at one of the city's most prestigious restaurants, a place known for its impeccable service and refined atmosphere. He brought his wife, Camille, and their 10-year-old son, Jordan, eager to share with them the joy of simple family time. From the moment they entered, though, they sensed something was off. The maitre d's greeting was perfunctory, his smile thin, his eyes flickering toward Marcus with a hint of something unspoken. As they were led through the softly lit dining room, Marcus noticed the way other diners' gazes followed them, curious, sometimes guarded, as if wondering whether they truly belonged in this upscale space. Marcus brushed it off at first. He had built companies from the ground up, weathered public scrutiny, and always believed that dignity and composure were the best armor. But as the evening progressed, small slights became harder to ignore. A delayed menu, water glasses left unfilled, and the waiter's clipped tone. The tension simmered quietly, unacknowledged, as Marcus tried to keep the mood light for his family's sake. Unbeknownst to the staff and most of the diners, Marcus's connection to this restaurant ran deeper than they could imagine. He had invested in it years ago, becoming its majority owner, preferring to remain in the background so the place could develop its own reputation. Tonight, though, his role as a silent owner would become the heart of a confrontation that no one in that dining room would forget. The first hour of the meal unfolded like a series of small paper cuts, barely visible but steadily painful. The waiter, a tall young man with a crisp uniform and a rehearsed smile, greeted nearby tables with warmth, but approached Marcus's family with a detached efficiency, his eyes avoiding theirs except when necessary. When Camille requested a simple substitution for her appetizer, he responded with a raised brow and a curt nod before walking off. When Jordan accidentally dropped his fork, the waiter retrieved it with a sigh loud enough for nearby diners to hear. Marcus noticed each slight but said nothing, focusing instead on his wife's laughter as she shared stories from their early years together. He could feel the tension in the air, though, like a low-hanging cloud threatening rain. Even the couple at the neighboring table glanced over occasionally, their expressions shifting between discomfort and curiosity, as if they sensed that something was off but didn't know whether to speak up. As the evening went on, the small acts of disrespect accumulated. Their water glasses remained empty long after they were set down. Bread was replenished at nearby tables, but not theirs. Camille shifted uncomfortably, trying to mask her unease so Jordan wouldn't notice. Marcus maintained his composure, but inside a storm brewed. The breaking point came just after the entrees were served. Marcus's steak arrived overcooked, a minor inconvenience he would normally let slide. But when he politely asked if it could be replaced, the waiter's thin smile faltered. His voice, cool and sharp, carried just enough of an edge to suggest that the request itself was somehow an affront. Around them, the mood of the room subtly shifted. A few diners paused their conversations to glance over, sensing the undercurrent of tension. Jordan's eyes darted between his father and the waiter, sensing the imbalance of power even if he couldn't fully understand it. Marcus kept his tone even, unwilling to let anger seep into his voice. He believed in handling such moments with quiet dignity. But in the mind of the young waiter, fueled perhaps by prejudice or resentment, the situation had already tipped over an invisible edge. It began as a simple trip to the service station. Then, in a moment that seemed both deliberate and surreal, The waiter returned, not with a replacement dish, but with a pitcher of ice-cold water. Without a word, he tipped it forward, letting the frigid stream cascade over Marcus's head, soaking his shirt and splattering onto the tablecloth. For an instant, the room froze. The gentle hum of conversation fell silent. A couple of guests audibly gasped. Camille's face blanched as she reached instinctively for a napkin. Jordan's hands clenched in his lap. The humiliation was immediate, the scene impossible to dismiss as a mistake. In that suspended moment, the very air in the restaurant felt charged, as if everyone present was waiting for Marcus's next move. Water dripped from Marcus's hair, sliding down his collar, soaking into the fabric of his sleeves. He remained motionless, his eyes fixed on the waiter with a calmness that unsettled everyone watching. It wasn't the reaction of a man humiliated. It was the stillness of someone measuring the gravity of what had just happened. Camille placed a steadying hand on Marcus's arm, her face pale but composed. Jordan stared at his father, wide-eyed, as if searching for a cue on how to respond. The other diners shifted uncomfortably, torn between indignation at what they'd witnessed and the silent tension of being bystanders. The manager hurried over, his expression caught between alarm and calculation. He opened his mouth to speak, but Marcus raised a single hand, halting him mid-sentence. That simple gesture carried a weight that silenced the room further. Then, in a voice low enough to draw everyone in yet steady enough to command respect, Marcus revealed what no one had known. He was not a mere customer. He was the majority owner of the restaurant. Every detail in the room, from the polished silverware to the art on the walls, existed in part because of his vision and investment. A ripple of shock moved through the diners. The manager's expression shifted from disbelief to dread as he realized the enormity of what had just unfolded. The waiter's posture faltered, the defiance in his eyes dimming into something like fear. Marcus rose slowly, water dripping from his cuffs, and laid his napkin neatly on the table. His composure, unshaken even in the face of public humiliation, made the scene more powerful than any outburst could have. His eyes swept over the room, the witnesses, the staff, the man who had just tried to demean him, and the silence that followed was more damning than any words. The manager's apologies came quickly, tripping over each other as he turned from Marcus to Camille to Jordan. But Marcus held up his hand again, calm yet firm. He didn't seek theatrics or revenge. What he sought was accountability. In the days that followed, the incident reverberated far beyond that single dining room. The restaurant's reputation was shaken, not because of a scandalous outburst by a customer, but because of the revelation that such prejudice could exist in a place built on the principles of hospitality. Patrons who had witnessed the event shared their accounts online, describing the quiet dignity with which Marcus had handled the ordeal. The waiter was dismissed. But Marcus insisted on something more meaningful than just firing one employee. He directed the management team to implement comprehensive training on diversity and inclusion, not as a public relations move, but as a genuine effort to change the culture of the restaurant from within. For him, the issue was never about revenge. It was about ensuring that no other guest, regardless of their background, would ever face such treatment again. Camille, though shaken by the incident, stood proud beside her husband, grateful for the way he had turned a moment of humiliation into one of purpose. Jordan, young as he was, absorbed a lesson that would stay with him. That dignity is not defined by the insults one suffers, but by the way one responds to them. For Marcus, the incident became more than just a personal ordeal. It was a reminder of the responsibility that came with his position, not just to run a successful business, but to create spaces where respect and equality were more than slogans, where the culture itself made prejudice unwelcome. As the story spread, it sparked conversations across the community about the subtler forms of discrimination that still linger in society, the small slights, the unspoken biases that can build into moments of open injustice. It served as a call to look beyond appearances and to confront the prejudices that often go unchallenged. In the end, Marcus's calm response to a public humiliation left a deeper mark than anger ever could. And for every diner who had been present that night, the memory of a man drenched in water but standing tall became a powerful reminder. True dignity can't be drowned.